All right. See if I can hopefully hear everybody. Just moved off of Bluetooth real quick. All right. ETF, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Fantastic.
All right.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Bringing the team up. All right. Just dropping a couple co-host invites. So we wanted to start off today with a little bit of market talk and then rotate into some of those questions. Was that the gist?
I believe that is the case, yes.
Okay.
Sounds like a
Cool.
good plan.
Are we waiting on anyone else?
Let's see. Got
I
Hay
think
as
we're
well.
good.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right. If we are looking good to go, then we'll start off with a little bit of market discussion, some updates. We got stock market news here for some news updates, and we can kind of take it from there. So I think we should be looking pretty good. Do you want to kind of kick us off here, ETF?
Yeah, also I have not been following the markets as closely. So just over this past week, just because I was on a family vacation, but I've just been watching what has been seemingly a really nice run on at least ES. The Nasdaq has also been running as well, but it's kind of taking me by surprise. Not really sure how the market's going to react. I don't know if this is just one of those elaborate bull traps or if it's something deeper. I guess we'll have to see. So everything is focused on the Fed as well, and just what he's going to do, and if there's going to be any other banking crises that pop up. I know there's a lot of talk about other banks perhaps seeing stresses and things that may come up to the surface as more stressors come out. But I guess it's one of those things we just have to see because I think the market wants to rally, but there's also the underlying fear that the bottom just could fall out for whatever reason. So we'll see. It looks good so far. Up 26 points on ES and everything else. Nasdaq up 94. Yeah, so it's a pretty good morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's have maybe stock market news give us a few minutes of news updates here before we get rolling as the audience comes on in. Evan, you want to kick us off with some of that?
Yeah, there was again. It's not the busiest of days. I don't know exactly what's happening earlier. Tuesday was a pretty busy news day, but we did have Google coming out and accusing Microsoft of anti-competitive cloud computing practices, mainly with criticizing a couple European cloud deals. So we'll see if that one develops into anything. Probably won't. We got the final revision for Q4 US GDP. It ticked down a little bit to plus 2.6%. It was previously plus 2.7%. We also got some jobless claims data, which wasn't too out. I'll get that in front of me in a second. The Nasdaq 100 QQQ is currently up 17% for Q1, on pace for its second best quarter over the past decade. So that's a pretty wild stat. The one quarter beating it was during the pandemic, Q2 during 2020. So that one was pretty big. Elon Musk is now the most followed person on Twitter. He passed Barack Obama last night. And then we also had Roku and a couple other companies. Actually, I saw LendingTree do something similar, 13% of their workforce. But Roku announced today that it's reducing the size of its workforce by 6%, impacting about 200 total employees. One or two more stories from last night. We had Microsoft. They're exploring placing ads into Bing's new AI-powered chatbot. So not fully surprised by that one. We had Meta coming out and kind of re-saying that they're still focused on the metaverse and they still think it's something that will be big. And finally, the Nasdaq 100 QQQ. It's on pace for its second best quarter over the past 10 years, and now it's also 20% off its recent December lows, which is the technical definition of a bull market. Last time the QQQ actually kind of got into a bull market was, I believe, August 2022, and it kind of fell off a little bit after. But so we'll see how this confirmation goes in. But 312 is about the level where that broke.
Okay. Fantastic. Nice little run through there this morning. Let's check in with the other guys. We've got Jay and Kay up here this morning. Jay, anything that you are watching with the markets this week?
Honestly, I've been trading mostly during the overnight sessions just because we getting massive range through the Asian and London session. So I did trade ES and mostly NQ. Managed to get some moves during the overnights. But when it comes to New York session, you deal with the chop. That's what I'm most expecting this morning too. And probably like the afternoon, probably see the actual move happen. Like what's next, I was waiting for 40.73.5 to break. It happened during the overnight session. So just keeping an eye. I'm just gonna wait it out during the first session just to see how things are moving. But yeah.
All right. Thanks, Jay. How about you, Kay?
I just got my eyes on a few different stocks, mainly like Disney and Meta. Got a funny story about that, but we can talk about that later. Um, no futures for me today.
Okay, so we can actually maybe hit with a little bit of this stuff before the open. Maybe Kay, you want to kick us off? Why futures trading? Why is that something that you guys have been leaning into? And then this week, have you taken any trades? If you took them, why'd you take them? Just kind of get into your thought process a little bit here.
Sure. So futures, I like futures because it's almost around the clock. You get more time to trade, which is not always the best thing, but hey, it fills a need at almost any time of the day. But my main focus is kind of just the equity stuff. So I'm actually in a position, all thanks to Eric. I thought he went to Disneyland, so I got into Disney, and now I'm just watching it. So far, it's working. I guess luck is on my side.
How about you, Jay? You were talking about how you had taken some trades. What had leaned you to taking those?
So I mostly trade futures. I used to trade options and equities. Not anymore. I went full-time futures around last year. Yeah, it's definitely my go-to when it comes to trading compared to options or equities. I have my highs and lows with options, but futures I definitely have. Feel like I have my, what do you call it? Like some sort of strength with trading. And in terms of trading Goldback sessions, yeah, it was just I noticed a lot of range, just the moves that's just happening. So I was just like, all right, well, I might take some trades here and there. But yeah.
Okay, when you are going to take a future trade, what is the research that you do beforehand? What does that prep look like before you enter it?
So I look at the range of the previous day. I also look at the week. I go to like higher time frames of the weekly and daily time frame, figure out the range, and then look for any imbalances during those days or the week, and then I'll bring it down to like the 4-hour, hourly, and then figure out what extremes I can catch and manage my risk. So that's my trading strat. I just look for structure, So, yep.
Okay, got it. Let me propose that same question to you, ETF, on the main account here. Just a little bit around how do you plan around taking a trade? We can also get into, which futures instruments do you prefer trading and why?
Yeah, it is a great question. So everyone has their own personal preferences. I think I'm, Jay, I definitely like to trade liquid futures. So ES is kind of my main little contract I like to trade. So it's, for me, I don't like to, well, I say this, but there's a caveat that I don't like to stay in a trade too long. I do enjoy going to the scalping just for like maybe 5 ticks, sometimes a little more depending on how the volatility is. But it's one of those things that it's liquid. There's no need to overstay your welcome. In fact, all the times I ever lose, it's always because I overstay a welcome. It's just when I look at something, I look at how the order flow is coming through. I look at the market structure, looking for those imbalances, kind of like Jay was saying, and we look for the flow of buys, whether they're large buy orders coming in through the tape and versus coming to sells, and see if there's any kind of stalling action, see if there's actually a push. There's always the market structure changes throughout the day, so it's a matter of just how do you want to trade it and how much risk you want to take. I think to me that's the most important thing. I'm not the best risk manager in the world, and I can tell you that emotions are always in there, whether you realize it or not. But for me, I do enjoy trading ES just because it is so liquid. Your orders are filled fairly easily. Not to say that hasn't happened to me where I have had the market touch my order and then just leave it there and cause some pain, which does happen to you in the live counts, which is one of those tricky things. But I do like the liquid instruments. I've traded crude oil before. I've traded even the I've even traded the euro before. I've traded the Swiss franc. Done some cocoa trading before as well. It's all personal preference, right? So it's a matter if you like taking the risk, you understand the markets or not. I can tell you when I was trading those ag futures, I had no idea what to do. Just trying to make a buck, and it scared me. So that's just what it is. Everyone's got to do their own thing and kind of figure out what makes you happy doing it.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea right there about being personal preference. Do you see there being certain areas that are best for beginners to start off with, like an MNQ, MES kind of area? Or, right now you're talking about trading the euro. There's also a lot going on with the dollar. Is that an area people could start out with? And how would they, learn which one's right for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in terms of ease to find for most people, I think it's always been you're always going to start off with probably ES or MES, right? So I always it's always good to start small. Don't go and trade the mini straight up. It's just a lot of risk, and people think, I can just get rich real quick. I'm like, yeah, but you can also get poor very quick too. So it's one of those things that with the micros like MES, you can really, really, really build a risk management strategy. And then when you get a little more comfortable, a little more better about risk management, you try some of the larger minis. But even then, you can kind of tell when your pulse starts racing whether or not you've entered in too much of a position. But for beginners, I'd always say that it's familiarity wise, the index futures are always a great way to start. You don't have to do a lot to make some money, and it's all about your goals, right? If you want to make a living, you can scalp minis and micros all day long and just be done. If you can walk away from it and just be happy with it, that's all you need. The other places you can try, like crude's a tricky market, I think, honestly. Like I've heard people call it one of the most, manipulated market just because there are such big players in it. Some of our, one of those countries named Saudi Arabia has a big presence in the market, and they can move whenever they want to just by saying a few words. There's also, I'm not very good at bond trading, but that's a very, very liquid market as well. There are people coming from Forex, and there are Forex futures that you can trade. It takes a little bit getting used to, but it's not too much different than what you expect. At least that's what I think of trading straight Forex exchanges. So with the dollar, yeah, you can trade it any way. You can use it against the yen, the euro, and a myriad other foreign currencies that you can use to, get those ideas and trade them.
Got it. Appreciate that little rundown there. So we're coming into market open here. Maybe we could take a look and get your guys' thoughts on how the futures are moving. Just for the people that are joining us, a little bit of a different thing this morning. Typically, we're just focused on live trading, but today we wanted to make it, really educational. So we do these futures trading spaces with the team over from Elite Trader Funding. You can see their main account up here. You can see their other founders are up here on stage, K and J as well. And so today we have gotten them on, and we're going to be able to ask them a bunch of different questions. Like trade secrets and different favorite instruments, talk about all these different pieces with trading journey, struggles, successes, pieces like that. So a lot to learn. If you come to these on Thursday mornings looking to learn about the futures trading side of things, you're definitely in the right place. We could take a look at the market real quick. So Kay, market just opened. You kind of take an initial look at it. What stands out to you right now with the futures market?
Usually when things gap up, it's not the time to enter. So I'm also just considering maybe I should get out of my positions, get back in. Perhaps the market's going to fill the gap below. Who knows? I'm not paying too close attention, but if I were, that's the game plan. Save myself
Yeah.
a few bucks if I can.
Yeah, I see right now on MNQ we're up about 0.7%, and on ESM we are up about
25.
Yeah, 25.75 right there. Interesting candle structure. Okay, Jay, how about you off the bat here, looking at the market? What's the first things that you're doing at market open?
Honestly, I'm just watching. I'm not really trading at the moment. I'm just switching over to like the 15-minute, and also checking at the hourly. I don't know. I'm somewhat expecting like an overshoot to happen, and I think it will chop in this range, or possibly make an attempt to fill the. But yeah, I'm expecting an overshoot, honestly.
Okay, sounds good. As some initial pieces. Continuing to just look at like certain areas of the market right here, like you guys mentioned, I believe we are continuing that gap up this morning. I kind of got to take a little bit of a closer look here for a second. All right, yeah, so a lot of crypto pumped last night, so we continued to see more crypto kind of shoot up this morning. So you could see coin up another 1.5%, and you could see the gold trade. There's some pieces in there that are moving, and I know that you guys can trade gold through futures as well. I do see Schwab, unfortunately, down another few percent. Do you guys have any tools that you'd like to maybe get exposure to banks, financials, and things like that through futures? Anybody could take that.
Well, I think really the banking is such a well, not I say small, but it is a specialized sector that the futures don't really have a basket per se to really play it as much, but there are ways to play it. I think honestly that a lot of people overlook this, but there are ways to trade interest rates. I think that's been the most volatile thing that you can get, and I know that it doesn't quite get the headline moves that whatever, First Republic down this much, up this much, whatever. But that being said, the ZN tool, was it the 10-year note to T-note, the ZN instrument, the ZB U.S. Treasury bonds, like those have been moving. Well, over the past week, they had moved in ways that hadn't been seen for decades. So there was tons of opportunity to make money there if you knew how to do it. I can't say personally I knew how to do it because I know it does flow very well. I'll say as much. It is very liquid markets. They're very, very liquid contracts, and so they move very well. It's not easy to spoof. And when I say spoof, I'm talking about people placing large orders on the tape at a limit order, a buy or a sell, and then pulling it, which is considered illegal, but it doesn't stop people from doing it. And it's sometimes the CFTC doesn't always follow up on it, but it's not easy to do it on these bond instruments. So there's ways to really trade that risk because it was priced in those interest rate instruments all the time. So it's not quite as sexy, so to speak, but it is a very, very good tool to use when you are expecting wild moves in all the banks because it gets priced in there. Whether or not it's specific to one bank or a bunch of them, it is definitely reflected in that instrument.
How do you go about handling risk management and position sizing, especially when futures trading?
I'll say the way that you do it is, it's personal for everyone. Like some people are really, really good about, I know how much I want to lose and how much I want to take, right? So it's really a matter of personal risk management, right? It's like when I go into a position, I try to, and not always successfully, I try to scalp as quick as possible, right? So sometimes my trades are, I like to trade one or two minis at a time in my personal account. My live accounts, and I just literally just scalp for 5 ticks here and there. And that adds up because 5 ticks is $125 with two ES minis. So, and that adds up, and you can do that 5 ticks in sometimes a second, sometimes 5 seconds, and sometimes you're wrong and it goes in against you. But that's what it is, right? And so I try to limit my risk in terms of putting stops in place. I'm not always good about doing it, but I try not to lose more than a few points at a time, so I can still recover. I know it sounds like people are like, why would you set your risk so high in terms of like a 2-to-1 ratio? And I don't always do it. And sometimes I ratchet the scalps a little higher in terms of profit targets and kind of move from there. But because the market doesn't move very quickly, and sometimes your entries aren't always the best, so you give a little room to error. But if you really, really see a bunch of orders come through and you really believe in it in that one direction, then I just stick with it. Again, that's personal for me.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it, man. I could barely hold 2 ES. I don't even look at NQ. That thing gives me a heart attack.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I stick with NQ. Just because, I mean, it's something that I'm used to trading. But definitely when it comes to risk management, again, I try to look for the extremes. I try not to, meddle in the middle type thing. So try to avoid it. If I do, I try to just, scalp for just very few points. I don't stay in for too long. And honestly, I try not to trade for more than, I do my best not to trade for more than an hour or two a day. Try not to stay in the market for too long. Get it done, get out. Don't even stay. Like I think, like Eric mentioned earlier, don't overstay your welcome if you made enough for the day, or you met your goals, or if you didn't, walk away. So I was learning to accept losses as well. And say I did meet my goal for the day, I tend to switch to MNQ, where I can probably just grab a couple micros just to test out the waters and see if I can catch certain moves. So yep.
I want to weigh how you guys value technical analysis versus fundamental analysis when it comes to futures trading. It seems like people, in my eyes, lean more into the technicals, but I'm curious if you guys use a combination of both. You want to take that first, ETF?
Yeah, I can take that. So this is such a hotly debated subject. I think depending on who you follow or who taught you and what you find works out for you, like it really is. Technical analysis, I believe, does work, but because the market is sometimes seemingly chaotic, that it doesn't always move the way you want, right? Like Jay was talking about overshoots. It happens quite a bit. I mean, it does end up correcting, but do you have the account size to withstand that move until it works in your favor, or do you have the patience to do it? Because sometimes, I mean, depending on where you are, and this is why I highly recommend that you don't trade news events, is that those things can go up and down so much so that it can bankrupt you if you're not careful. So with that being said, I think the way that it works it depends on your style training. If you're a swing trader, technical analysis, I think, works really well, with some caveats, obviously, like I said before. But I think the way that fundamentally people like to talk about, oh, the interest rates do this and this and this, and it does have some effect, right? Overall, in terms of the trend of the day, interest rates have effects on ES and all the bond instruments and everything else. And it's just a matter of, at that moment, does it really make a big difference what it looks like down the road, or does it matter if you're trying to trade just for a few ticks, a few points? How long do you want to stay in, right? If you're trying to do it overnight, which I can't do it because I used to do it when I was a newbie, found out I didn't sleep and lost tons of money that way too, because it wears you out. But if you're trying to do real quick things, I think technical analysis it might be more of a hindrance, honestly, because I think because the market knows, everyone knows technical analysis. They know the key levels, they know this. So there's going to be some games they play. everyone looking at the 200-day moving average, or everyone's looking at this spot where something happened. So that's why I like to say, be careful, be quick, get out, take your money, and just walk away, because it's not worth it. Because when you're worrying about being right all the time, it comes back to bite you, because then it becomes pride. It's not about what you're really trying to do. Are you actually trying to make money, or are you trying to be right? That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, it's weird how the market knows exactly where my stop is. I think just about every time.
Well, speaking of that, hey, some people feel like every time they enter a stock or a future, it just goes the opposite direction from them. How do you deal with, emotions like fear and greed and having things not go the direction that you'd like them to go?
Yeah, actually, that happened to me yesterday. I entered Meta because I was like, hey, this looks great. This is the perfect time. And as I was reviewing the chart, I kind of convinced myself that it was a perfect setup. Usually, how it goes. And I think at that point, when your bias is really strong, person like me, I enter the trade, and of course, it immediately goes against me. I'm sure if I were to take a step back and I re-review the chart, maybe I flip it upside down a few times, I'd probably have a different opinion on it. But I don't know. That's one of those things I'm actively working on. I feel like it's like one of those challenges that every trader goes through, and it's like even the best of the best have this problem where they'll do good for a while, but then bias becomes too strong, and the plays just don't work, and then they're in the same seat as me, where wondering like, why the heck did this thing reverse on me? It was supposed to go up, not down. Usually how it goes. Story of my life. Good news is Meta did give me a heart attack yesterday, but now it's doing okay.
So how do you kind of deal with those emotions versus saying, all right, this isn't for me, I'm walking away?
I personally, I'm the type of guy, I like, I've been trading for a while now, and at this point, I rely on my tools, on my read, and I've realized that my plays are fairly good. I just need to trust myself and stick to the plan. If I have a stop loss, stick to the stop loss. If I have a take profit, take it and go home. But that's how I kind of, I force myself to think about my plan and stick to it, because it works out more often than it doesn't. And
Got it.
Yeah, it's usually just me. The second review of it is what I usually talk myself out of it, and it turns out my play was perfect. My plan was right. I scare myself.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. Maybe, Jay, I can throw a question over here. Do you have any specific strategies for dealing with losses and minimizing their impact on your portfolio?
Honestly, like I do my best to minimize my losses. Not that I have dealt with heavy losses. Honestly, when I first started trading futures, when I felt like, oh wow, this is it for me. Like this is what I should be trading. I should be trading options or equities. And I was trading live with my live funds for a bit. I think I had probably my best month last year, sometime in February, I think it was. And it was like the best month where I was able to achieve my, I guess you can say, a bucket list for hitting 5-figure for the month. And it took me like 24 days to achieve that. And then the following month, it was rough. I think I lost more than half of what I earned in just like 3 days. And it's not easy. A lot of emotions play a role. At the time, I was spending a lot more time in the market, a lot of screen time. But then, I realized, if you see something that's going against your plan, don't stay in the market for too long. Try to walk away, find something else to do, because the urge to stay in the market, trying to make back what you lost, or even waiting for that move to happen, or even scalping, like oversizing, like over leveraging for the few ticks, it's not worth it. So just walking away is probably the best strat you can possibly go with when dealing with losses.
Okay, got it. I can appreciate some insight there. All right, let me bring it back to you, Elite Trader Funding, and tell me, one secret that you learned, how you took that lesson home when it came to futures trading, and a little bit on how you stay up to date with the latest news and trends in the market as well.
Yeah, so I think for me, the best way is I found that it's not removing emotions per se, but controlling them. I think for me, it's always been about controlling your emotions as to limit it, right? And I like to think I'm pretty in control of it, but it sneaks up on you. And for me, that's how I keep control of it, is by scalping and by disciplined scalping. So profit target, hit it, just play. And it's funny though, because I've done it where like I've done it. So I was like, okay, I'll set today. Just say arbitrarily I set a goal for $1,000, and I've gotten to the point where I can hit $1,000 and maybe just scalping maybe like 30 minutes to an hour of just straight scalping here, and go, right? It doesn't take very long, but it's one of those things like, oh man, I'm getting really good at this. I'll push a little more. So, let's make it 2,000. Let's make it 3. And then something goes against you and like, no, I'm right about this. I've done so well. And then you just, you just sit there and you watch it all go away and you're like, well, this is stupid. I just walked away. I would have been happy. And now I'm down, and now it's, okay, well, I've done exactly the opposite of what I was told myself to do. And I succumb to emotions, and then just walk up, you just get up, walk away, and you realize I'm exhausted. Did not realize how much mental energy it took just to sit there and watch the tape over and over and then hit these targets, right? So it is one of those things. I think that controlling your bias is a difficult thing, controlling your emotions, and just also seeing how much energy takes out of you to scalp. It's been, I've done this for many, many years now, so it's still a process of learning. Because I'll have great days, and then it's always followed by a bad day. Because I think, and I didn't realize it, that yeah, it's difficult to control this race. Sorry, what was the other part of the question?
Yeah, so it's kind of a two-part question. I was asking if you had a trade secret, but then also how you stayed up to date with the latest news and trends in the market, and if there's any specific types of maybe news and trends that you pay attention to for futures versus typical trading.
Yeah, I think so. Part of my past life, I've been in banking. I've been an economist by trade, and so I know economists always get a bad rap, but it's one of those things. Like, I like it. Like, I just like listening to the market stuff. I like understanding what's going on behind the scenes, because people always ask me like, "Oh, what's going on with this company?" I'm like, I don't know which one. Depends on what you see, and a lot of my friends and family who know that I've been banking, they're like, should I be worried? Should I be pulling my money out? Right. So it's one of those things that I will always stay up to date, because it's just what I do. It's my interest. I reference Bloomberg quite a bit, watch some CNBC, and I don't really like them as much anymore. But Bloomberg always feels has really, really good tools for people to understand the whole global market as opposed to just the U.S. market. And I do have access to a Bloomberg terminal, so I know it's a little unfair, and it's definitely out of the price point for a lot of people, because it is extremely expensive. But it's been very helpful to learn, and they have great insights on it. But other than that, I do use Twitter just to get live market updates. So whichever news outlet you want to follow, it's just good to know. But it's it's hard for me to tell you like how do I always follow up to news, because like I'm probably a little bit different than most people. I just like to dig a little bit more, because it's kind of what I've grown up with and kind of what I've done for a living. So it's a lot of fun to me in a sense. I think some people look at me like, you're insane because you're weird and you want to look at this for fun. Why is this fun? It's people's money. I'm like, yeah, no, but at the same time, I know why it's happening, and I've seen it happen before. So human nature, right? People do the same things over and over again. They just find new ways to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Kay, do you have any other kind of resources there that any secrets of the trade that you think are worth sharing?
Yeah. I got two actually. One being, and I kind of learned this in my later part of my trading career, is to have a support system. Have it's okay to rely on your loved ones. Kind of, you can use them as therapy, essentially. And when you're strong at home, when your relationships are strong, then your decision making somehow improves. You think better, or I think better, and it just kind of overall helps out everywhere. So happy life, happy wife, happy life, happy kids, happy life. So keep that relationship strong at home. That's one secret for me. Number two is I, there's like a million indicators out there, probably a million plus. There's new ones getting created every day. But what I've done is I rely on only two, and I've at this point that's all I look at, just those two indicators, and I've built up the confidence to trust my read based on those indicators, and that's what allows me to set my take profits and exits. So that's my other secret is, if forget all the millions and millions of indicators, find something that works and stick to it. Sharpen that skill set, and just get better at that instead of exploring and chasing whatever's shiny at the moment.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and one more time, just for those that are kind of joining up at this point, about 30 minutes, or maybe more than that, actually, already into our space. We're doing a little bit of a different space this morning than we typically do on Thursday morning. So every Thursday morning, as most of you know, you can come and you can trade futures with us. We typically have a bursting panel of futures traders. I see some of them even joining us in the crowd today with Paper Gains and others popping in. So thank you to those that are hanging out with us, listening and learning. We do these futures trading spaces with the team over from Elite Trader Funding. For those that are unfamiliar with Elite Trader Funding, they're a futures trading prop firm, and they allow people like yourselves in the audience to get used to the idea of trading futures without having to risk your own money off the bat. How do they do that? They basically have built out full-on simulator. Essentially, you can pay a very small fee to try out the simulator, and if you perform well, they'll actually fund your account. So this is basically a way to get money to trade with without having to ultimately put up your own money up front. They also have been very nice to offer my audience a massive discount on the simulator, which I went ahead and I pinned to the top. So if you're curious at all about trading futures, it's a very volatile area. Now, there's some good reasons to trade futures, right? If you're already trading options and you're trying to get that volatility, and in your mind, you're thinking, I don't have, the necessary capital to go out there and buy hundreds of equity shares. That's why I trade options. This could be a good option for you, right? When it comes to trading options, you deal with two specific areas that really can be detrimental, which are theta decay and IV, right? Which means you can correctly predict the way that a stock is going to go, right? You could say, I think it's going to go up. I'm going to buy calls. They're out of the money, whatever it is. And you can still lose money on that trade more times than you would believe, right? A lot of option traders have been susceptible to this, where they come in and they see news, right? News came out. Oh, look at this stock. I'm going to buy some calls off this news that came in, not looking and seeing IVs at 250%, and basically then getting chopped up for 10 minutes, they lose 25% of the contract, right? This is another volatile way to trade. There's definitely volatility within futures, but it removes time decay as well as IV. So you don't have to deal with those external factors. So that's why we've been doing these Thursday mornings. And the goal is people can come and learn, right? You can have an opportunity to learn about different options. And today we actually have the founding team over there joining up with us. We've got 3 founding members up here. I think we were supposed to have maybe one more 2 with us that wasn't able to make it, but we really did have been having a good time with them, on with us, chatting with us, answering our questions. So you're kind of learning right from the people who are creating this program. And again, I do encourage y'all, if you haven't had a chance yet, in the top of this space is that link to see more around futures trading, around the discount that we have for the futures trading to learn more about the team. Because if you've been sitting here listening and this has been intriguing, that's the way that I encourage you to start. Not with, putting up thousands of dollars of your own money, but taking a little flyer on a simulation, playing around with the simulation. And a lot of people in our spaces had already passed it within 2 to 3 weeks to the point where they got funded accounts. And then they're keeping majority of those profits as well. Actually, if you Elite Trader Funding, do you want to kind of go over that real quick with the how basically like what percentage you're actually keeping?
Yeah, sure thing. The first once you get past the eval, you can go to what we call an elite account, which is a account where you can is now live and you can actually make money. You can actually keep 80% of your profits. There's a 20% split between us, but you do get to keep your first 12,500 in profits. 100% of those go to you. So that is a huge thing because that's a lot of people, that's life-changing money, and then you can build a great source of secondary income, or even if you want to do this full-time, which a lot of people have done, it's a great way to do it. I'll say this, we also have a live account option in terms of we're putting up money to help you actually have a live account and become more of a professional trader. So that once you get to that level, it's a 90% 10% split. So that is a big seller. I know a lot of people ask about it. Oh, you guys offer live? That is, we do offer live, but it has to meet our special criteria. We don't want to fund gamblers. We don't want to fund people who are taking unnecessary risks. So but it is there.
There you go. So yeah, it's a cool little rundown on how you can play around with these systems, get familiar with them. And if you've been coming in our spaces, again, every Thursday, you've heard us taking live trades. Last week we took, I believe it was M&Q to the upside. We showed entry, exit, why we took it. But I'm trying to learn a little bit more here, right, with these guys today and just pick at some great minds. That's where we were talking about fundamental versus technical analysis, where you get your news for this type of stuff, secrets of the trade. So there's just a lot of pieces here. I'd actually maybe throw it back at Jay. I can ask you. You guys have a pretty large community as well. Pretty cool to be able to have that community coming on Twitter Spaces. We'd love to get more of them on here, more ETF traders from time to time, discuss how they trade. Was that something that you guys are interested in, something we can make happen?
Yeah, for sure. We definitely want to, have our community engage in the spaces too. We're definitely looking to our community is pretty huge so far. I mean, we started our Discord community sometime in September, and right now we are currently at almost 4,000 members in the community, and it's pretty cool. It's a very good space for people to come together and just talk it out about markets, about prop firms, and trading in general. So definitely something we want to do, have our community, just I think the main focus for ETF is to be able to have that community engagement and having that educational space for them to learn about futures market and stuff. So, yep.
Nice. Appreciate that. Definitely excited to get more of them in here. I think we should definitely work with you guys to bring on some who, enjoyed the simulator, took advantage of that, are now benefiting, right? Making profits, get some more of them in here. Let me bring it over back to Elite Trader Funding, and then I'll go to Kay after this with the question that I had here, which was, can you share a little bit on your trading journey, the struggles? How did you first get even interested in it? What motivated you to pursue this? I think that'd be helpful for a lot of people in the audience to know.
Yeah, it's a fun story. I think it's a little embarrassing, but so I started when I was 16 years old, when I was back in high school, learning everything about how equities work. That's just kind of my foray into the market in general. Like, oh, this is kind of interesting. So, and then I did some options trading as well. I've done that. I found the theta decay has been painful, and it's one of those things that just it irritates me more than anything else, because I'm like, okay, this is not working nearly as well as I thought because of IV spikes and IV just getting crushed sometimes. So went into futures because I was basically an idiot at 22. That's my trading journey. Is what I found out. I was like, hey, I had overnight success trading the euro and the Swiss franc of all things, but those future contracts, and it was a lot of fun at first, and then I started getting really, really into it and not sleeping very well. So because I was trading, because the overnight sessions is when all the European activity is, 3 a.m., etc., and it just did not know what I was doing quite then, and leveraged so heavily that I had set myself up for failure. And it was then I realized that you should not fall asleep when you have 10 contracts and a small account, because when it goes against you, and it's funny because my profit target was literally a couple ticks away of making a few $1,000 or whatever, but I ended up losing like 20 grand overnight and getting margin called at 22 and having very little money to my name. So
Nice.
yeah, so that was great, right?
That's the
So
way to do it.
yeah, so if you guys ever want to know what the most scary thing is, when your broker says, I need you to put up 10 grand of your own money after you lost like 15 grand or whatever it was, 10, $12,000 I had, to put up an additional, and that's just to pay them back because you've been margin called, right? So you get nothing out of it other than a big fat bill. That was fun. So, but at least I learned my lesson, I think, when I was 22, and then got that out of my system, because at least I haven't blown anything bigger than that since then. It's just that's my trading journey. I think everyone, if you ever met a trader who says, I've never blown my account, it's just a matter of time. It's like, well, how long have you been doing it? Oh, I've been doing it for a couple of years. Where like, okay, well, you're lucky. I also don't believe you, because I'm pretty sure everyone who comes in, starts trading futures, and at some point or another will spiral into, I joke about it, like the spiral of doom or whatever. Just nothing goes right. And it still happens to me, but getting up and just being able to walk away now is a big thing, and just realizing, okay, that was stupid. I need to stop doing this, and having friends and family who hold you accountable, right? Because ultimately what you got to do is, why are you trading this? Why are you trying to do this? Is it just fun? Is it because you're prideful, or are you actually trying to make a living for your family, for you, trying to get a better step up in your life? That's what it's all about to me. Sometimes I know that I do it for fun, and that's usually when I make the dumbest mistakes. So that's just a little about me. That makes sense to you guys? Or, I mean, I know Kay kind of has a similar story, if you want to ask him about it, because I don't want to be the only
Yeah.
one embarrassing myself.
Oh no, I've got my fair share of mistakes, but it's the mistakes that kind of help pave the way to the future. For me, originally it started off with a question, and the question is what is a good investment? And I honestly didn't know. Like, I still don't know. And as I started digging into that, just reading stories about so and so investing in something, it's kept wondering what's the reasoning? Why are they spending this much money? What are they getting out of it? Like, do they have a fortune teller at home or something? How do they know? And long story short, I found charts, and being a visual pattern type of guy, I just kind of fell in love. I started realizing, like, hey, these things kind of repeat. So is this what they mean by a good investment? Like, when the chart looks this way, um, and but that's kind of how the journey started. I did, like, throughout my trading career, I did quit my job, thinking I got it, because I felt like a pro with my few wins and thought I could sustain. So I took a break from work, um, started trading, was winning, winning, winning up until life hit me outside of the market. And that was a learning lesson, because I realized, like, oh man, outside of factors do play a big role. Normally I would be taking this risk, but because of X, Y, and Z reason, I don't want to take it anymore. Um, my stupid journey, or my stupid play, was, and I've only done it once. Fingers crossed, it won't happen again. But I held a Tesla call, and It was Tesla. It was way out of the money. It was Friday. There was only 10 minutes left, and I was trying to save myself $1 of commissions and fees, so I didn't close it out because it's way out of the money. It's just not gonna happen. So I realized though over the weekend, because at that point I just closed down the app. Might forget it, whatever. Uh, Over the weekend, opened it up because I had to. I just had to know, like, am I good? Am I good? And I was faced with a kind of a heart attack. Like, oh shoot, I I got 100 shares of Tesla. The option was exercised, and on Monday, Monday couldn't come any sooner. So I was just wondering, like, crap, what do I do? What do I do? Do I got to put money in? What if this thing reverses? Because I got that luck. I know it's not going to go in my direction. But come Monday, I did what I do best, which is panic sell, and I was out. I think I made maybe $100 on that. That was I guess $100 for the good time. Thank you, Tesla.
Nice rundown there. That's a pretty wild story. Jay, you got one for us?
So I don't have a crazy story like these two. These two have. I've never had a margin call situation, but I think I started my journey with, like I mentioned earlier, like options. My first ever option that I purchased was Apple. It was when I first started. It was on Robinhood. It was like, I think sometime back in 2018. It was great. I mean, my first time buying options, I was like, whoa, this is really quick money, you know. And then I started getting into it. I didn't follow charts. I literally honestly, I looked at Robinhood chart, and all I saw was a trend. I was like, oh, it's an uptrend. All right, let me just buy a couple of options here and there, see what happens. I had good success for a couple of weeks, and then I saw AMD, and I think it was around the time Google announced, forget what it's called. I think they announced their online gaming, and they were partnering with AMD for the graphic cards or the processors at the time. I forget what it was. And AMD shot up like crazy, and I was like trying to counter trend, like trading. I was like, all right, there's no way it's gonna keep going up. Let me just keep buying puts, and honestly, I got wrecked. And my trading journey has pretty much been a lot of trial and error. Finding that strat that fits my style of trading. I've done scalping, day trading, swing trading, all sorts of stuff, and down to futures trading. My future journey was my first experience with futures was silver. I traded silver over at TD Ameritrade at the time. Crazy commissions and stuff. I did not know what I was doing. It was purely based on technical analysis, and I didn't do well, honestly. Then I had to go back to the drawing board and just go back to what I can find and what I can be good at. And that's pretty much where I started trading ES and NQ, and pretty much went on from there.
Hey, Wolf.
Okay.
Hey, Wolf. Do you mind if we go? I know we're a little short on time. Do you mind if we go through a few questions from the community? I could read them out, and
Yeah, no problem. I had some more. I saw Paper Gains came up. He might want to ask one or throw some
sure.
comments. You have some too. Let's actually take one real quick from Paper. Did you have some thoughts on what we were discussing?
No, Kay actually gave me a little blast from the past. I had a very similar story on Tesla too. Like trying to save
Nice.
$1, but mine did not have the happy ending that you guys had. But yeah, I think that was very similar. I'm a spread trader, and I forgot to close out some very, very small, like couple dollar spreads. I thought they were totally fine, and yeah, Tesla made this crazy move after hours, and I found out about what's it called? the exception assignments, things like that. And even if something closes at a certain price, doesn't mean you're not going to get assigned. There's no guarantee there. So yeah, my story unfortunately was probably the biggest loss I've ever had. North of a quarter million extra on that one. So it was it happens, and yeah, horror stories. You gave me anxiety. I just had to be like, dude, I feel you, man. Very rough.
Yikes. Well, welcome to the Lucky
Yeah.
Club.
Let me throw out one more question here then.
Sure.
The paper, I appreciate you coming up and sharing, and it'll be good to have you in 20 minutes as well when we open up with a little bit more. Let me ask one more to Eric, and then we could take those ones from the audience, which is, Eric, why was ETF started? What was the inspiration behind Elite Trader Funding? What were the challenges? How's the company evolved? Like, really, what sets you guys apart? Why was it started?
Yeah. I think it's great. I think because we all met and we all have these stories about what happened to us as terrible or as lucky it is, and it was one of the things we thought. Trading is hard, as Kayla says all the time. It's hard, so we set up something. We want it to be fair. We want to be open about it. I mean, within limits, of course. We can't tell you everything that we're doing on our back end because that's not how a business runs. And I know a lot of people are like, well, you guys are not going to be as open and transparent. Like, no, we actually are very, very transparent. We try to be as fair because it's one of those things that, I talked to my wife about it, and it's one of those things that am I proud of what we're building? Am I proud of what I'm doing? Can I actually say that, yeah, we're making some money off this, but is this doing the right thing? It's always been one of those things that Kay and I always talk about, and Clint, who's not here with us as well, is we want to be able to sleep at night. And the way we do it is, one, you don't hold futures contracts overnight. And then two, do you do the right thing throughout the day? Through your business, do we treat people fairly? And we believe we do. We wanted to make a firm that was able to provide people the education and opportunity to become a futures trader without taking the huge risk of things that, getting margin calls or learning the hard way about how much leverage can cut you. It's better to lose a few bucks on a simulation than to lose your retirement on an overnight move that you didn't see coming, because your stop didn't trigger correctly because of liquidity. So it's one of those things that we thought, hey, this is a very valuable way to do it, and we want to be as fair and open about how we're doing this because we want to set these people up for success, but we also don't want, and it's a fine balance between setting them for success and giving them what they want, because sometimes what people want is just to throw dice and like, no, we're not doing. That's not what trading is about. Trading is about discipline, and this is what we're looking for, and this is what we want people to be. This is why we're elite, because we want people to succeed. So that's how we started. It was just a bunch of guys who looked at each other and go, we should do this. I think we can do this. And Clinton he's not here, sadly, but he's a fantastic trader. Probably the best trader I've ever met in my life. And even he had some really rough times, but he's just this guy he's just like an ordinary guy, but man, when he's on fire, and he just makes these gains look like it's easy. And I'm just like, I'm sitting here trying to make a few $100. I don't know what the heck you're talking about. It's like, that's way more than I'm doing. Which is, but he believes that people can do it because, he's like, if I can do it, you can do it. He tells me all the time, like, look, you guys are smarter than me. I'm like, no, it doesn't look that way, man. But that's what we're about. We're about finding those people who can do this, and we're about people who want to succeed and do it in a disciplined way. So that's why we started the firm.
Kay or Jay, you want to add anything onto that?
Yeah. Unfortunately, Clint's not here. He had a family emergency in the middle of the night. Mainly, everything Eric said. And, honestly, trading is very hard. We get it right, and then we get it wrong. But we want to see, are there people out there that can do this consistently? Is it true that people can continue and make a career out of trading? Because I know I've tried it, it didn't work out. I had to go get my job back. But is it possible? I mean, from the looks of it, yes, it really is, and it requires a lot of focus, dedication, discipline, and we see our traders, and I personally, I'm taking notes. Like, man, how are these guys doing it? And that's why it would be really nice to get some of these traders on here, so we can ask them these questions, and just get a perspective of how do you trade? What makes you successful?
Yeah, it's super exciting. I definitely want to work with you guys to bring some more of those people on here who have been through the simulator, past that, now are trading futures a lot more often and are, able to give some insights and education as well on it. Okay, so Kay, you mentioned that you had some questions from the audience you wanted to read out.
Yeah, so we actually got a huge list, but I'll just randomly pick out a few. So one from Evan. Does ETF plan to create an eval or funding program for option trading? I can't say it. Specifically selling options, such as spreads, iron condors, etc. If not, why not? And why don't any other prop firms have it either? Well, it's not technically impossible to offer this, but the way that we can create auto liquidation policies, and basically we can build policies and those policies execute as we expect them to with instruments that are liquid. And as you may know, options are not that liquid depending on the strike expiration. So it's a little challenging. And one of the risks I could see is a liquidation policy kicking in when it shouldn't have, just due to how the market likes to move the prices around for options. So not to say we don't have something that is going to fill that need in the future, but options, I don't think it's a good idea. It's just technically, it's a little hard to implement. All right, so next one from at Mehdi Mushine. When will ETF offer weekly payouts? Actually, we do offer weekly payouts, and if you have multiple accounts, you can just schedule, one payout per week, or if you have multiple accounts, you could definitely request multiple payouts per week. The only requirement or restriction for the first few payout cycles is, per account, one payout within a month, 30-day period. So again, technically you can request payouts every single week and multiple payouts per week across accounts. And from at Carl Invest, can we get a user-defined risk parameter for maximum contract size allowed on Tradeovate accounts? It's great to be able to trade 24 contracts, but I usually limit my PA to 2 contracts, so I don't do anything too dumb, unless I'm up a lot on the day and adding to a winner. As far as I am aware, this isn't possible in Tradeovate. We could probably do this in Rhythmic, but it could get really messy. We can, in theory, we can change the sizing per account, but I guess we should probably think it through. I'll add this question to our feature request list, and we'll do some more research and see if it is possible or impossible. On to the next, from KepZCaps. When are y'all getting rid of the 40% rule and trade blackout times? Well, I don't think we're going to get rid of the 40% rule. And the reason is because that's the type of trader we're looking for, someone that's consistent and they can repeat their trading day after day. We have actually received feedback. I don't know if you guys, we don't like to post winners and any kind of withdrawals or anything. We just leave that up to our traders to do. But we did have a decent size withdrawal that was posted by the trader probably a few weeks back. And that trader actually was very much against the 40% rule. And what they realized was that due to the 40% rule, they actually got the fat paycheck, so or payout. So, does it work? Is it benefiting people? Heck yeah. So I guess last one I'll ask here from at BJ. I'm gonna screw this up. Bijani Swex. Do you have some plans to change the payout system? I we recently did just change the payout system. We can, if I had some more details, if what you mean, maybe I can clarify the answer. And this looks like a multi-part question. Are you planning to change the web dashboard, add some graphics to it? Where's the drawdown and so on? Yes, actually, we got some plans to add some visuals so you could see your account in a historical way on our dashboard, on our site. But technically, if you want to see that kind of stuff, you could go straight to the platform and pull the data. I know it might not be as convenient, and it is nice to have everything in one place, and that is one of our goals. The other cool thing that we're investigating is a journaling feature. So that feature might be a third party. We're still doing some talking, research around. But I think we might just opt to spin up our own. That's coming in this year. And I think I'll just stop here. That was a lot of questions.
Yeah, really nice run through. Let's see if any of the others. Eric, you got any thoughts on any of those questions?
No, I mean those are pretty much what it is. I think I did have a few things, and of course now, it's going to escape my thought. Think of what it was talking about, but or at least what I had about. I think the payout question about did we change our payout system? Like we like the way it's done now. Deal, which is a way to handle payment processes, and sometimes it can be a little manual for the affiliates, but that is a change is coming from there in terms of how we do affiliate payouts, because right now it is a manual process, and I deal with them on a personal basis, and I get it, like it is a little annoying, but there's a change coming. I don't know exactly when, but it is coming because I would like to make it streamlined for everyone as well. As far as the 40% rule, yeah, like Kay was saying, it is a rule that is implemented because we are trying to find people who can replicate the trades over and over. And then some people are like, well, it's not fair because I had this great day. I'm like, okay, well, that's great. But if you can continue making gains, then that one great day is going to be just a part of your great trading. So over time, yeah, you can get it all paid out. It's just a matter of, can you keep replicating it? Because trust me, if you can't replicate it, if it's a live account, it's going to be blown up. Can't tell you how many times I've made like 10 grand in a day and lost it the next couple of days. It happens. So, but can I do it $1,000 a day? Yes, I can do that. But can I do it over time? Yes. But it's the big days that kill me. So it's one of those rules that we came up with because it is something that aligns with our core vision of finding disciplined traders, and that's what it is. It's to reinforce it. It's to stop you from gambling. It's to make sure that you can trade and trade again and again and again and survive and do it profitably. So that's all I had to say.
Okay. Yeah. How about you, Jay?
Nothing much really. They pretty much covered it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we got about just 5 more minutes on this topic, and then for those in the audience, we are going to open up into a little bit more of a analysis of what's been going on in the markets. Obviously, if you've been watching the markets this morning, you'll see that SPY is up about 0.5%. To be honest, it's probably been fine that we haven't been super actively trading so far because the market just hasn't done a whole lot. We were chopping for the first, 20, 30 minutes. After that, it just dropped for 15 minutes straight. Now it's coming back up. So not a whole lot of movement. And that coin, gold's kind of flat at the moment still. Workday is a setup that I'm looking to potentially pop. QQQ is up towards the high of the day range, but again, pretty much mostly been chopped. So unless you've been absolutely just scalping your ass off, there hasn't been a ton to do just yet. So continuing to watch some of those, but we are going to hopefully get some more action in 3 to 4 minutes when we open it up to that part. One more time, also want to give a big thank you to the founders for coming on here. It's obviously great we can get people who have built platforms within the trading world, especially futures trading, to come and join us on a futures trading informational space. So if you haven't checked out JK and of course the Elite Trader Funding account, I do recommend going ahead and checking them out, giving them a follow, especially on that main account as well. Hopefully we will continue to bring on also some other great futures traders, right, over time, and continue to learn from them. No better way than to learn from people with experience. I think you guys just heard a lot of stuff that sets these people apart as well. So if you do have questions for them, I recommend going ahead and kind of reaching out, just sending a DM. You could hit them in their personal DMs. You could hit the company on their email. There's a lot of different pieces. Just bringing it back one more time. I guess a good way to maybe close out here with you guys would be just any other advice for beginners that are getting started in this area. People have gone through their struggles, and we've talked about how the struggles can help you overcome and be better later on in that career. But there's more struggles than just losing money, right? There's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of a learning curve as well, as people learn to get in, to get out, to set up stops and stuff like that. So maybe I can start with you, Jay. Just any other kind of advice for the beginners, best ways for them to get comfortable with the process, to get comfortable with setting their risk rewards, stops, all those pieces?
Honestly, I would highly recommend starting off with micros. It's something I wish I did first as well. Matter of fact, when I had my crazy month, it was a small account that I started, and I was strictly trading MNQ, and that helped me bring my account up from like 20 something days to like a 5-figure month. And that's I think right after that is when I started getting into minis, and that's when emotions took over. But micros is excellent in terms of managing your risk and growing your account. You just have to be patient. It's a lot of the moves or like meeting a certain goal may take a little longer to achieve. So meaning like you'd be staying in the trade a little bit longer than expected. Don't over leverage. Don't stay in the market for too long. Take a time, find setups, and if it doesn't meet your criteria, move on. Don't find something else to do. Something that that can distract you from trading. Honestly, spending time with family is definitely one. I mean, I have a little one that I have to take care of during the day, because that's just my responsibility. So it's definitely want to spend time with her whenever I get the chance. So find time to be away from the market, and honestly, just times that you're free on the weekends, or I barely sleep, honestly. So at nighttime is when I tend to review charts. I tend to go over setups and learning new things. Honestly, this market is always evolving, and there's never a time that you can't, like, you're constantly learning new things. The environment shifts often, and you have to be able to adapt to all the environments that's thrown at you. So, yep.
Love it. We're coming into 10:30 here, so I'll just go to Kay and Elite for any other comments. Kay, any other comments you want to share with us today?
Yeah, we have, due to today's event, we have something special in the works. Just keep an eye on our social media for anyone that's interested. We'll have the details posted. I can't say too much, but they will be posted here soon.
All right. Thanks, Kay. Appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And Eric. Oh, Jay, you got anything else there?
Oh, no, I just want to say thank you. Thank you, Gav. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And Eric, anything else you would like to share on this one?
No, I think you guys have been great. Thanks for having us on here, and really, really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions, please reach out to our customer support, who they are the we consider them the best in the industry, and I think they set a really, really high bar. So please reach out and join our community. We are waiting for you guys, and we're looking forward to meeting everyone. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you to all the listeners. We appreciate you guys being on, listening to us. Yep.
Absolutely. Pleasure having you guys on. Thank you to the founders for coming on today. And one more time, if anybody would like to check out futures trading, start off with that simulator. Don't just throw all your money into the pot. And if you want a nice discount on that, just use the link that's pinned in the top of the space. Thank you, JK and Elite Trader Funding. We're going to roll into our next more open style trading space now. We have a few speakers that went